Hi, welcome back. I'm Linda. I finished up a pretty snow scene today with lots of vibrant colors, pinks, rose color, lavender, and lots of snow-covered boughs. I lowered the tree line some, so it should be easy after you get down here. Just a matter of putting in the river, lots of blues, more whites, and a down tree. I really think you're going to love doing this one. So get your paints out, follow me. So let's get started. And here are the oil paints I used. Liquid white, titanium white, phthalo blue, lamp black, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson or violet, cad yellow light hue. And so now I'm going into a clean, dry 16 by 20 canvas. And I'm going to give it a nice even coat of liquid white. I'm going to go all over as evenly as I can. I don't want to put a lot on there. All the way. And then I'm going to take a blue shop towel and I'm going to fold it in half and give it a nice wipe down. Take all the excess oil off. You don't want a lot on there because it would make your paint run. So I do it a couple of times until I'm happy with it. Okay, so now I've got different colors on my palette. I mixed the phthalo blue and white for powder blue, alizarin crimson and white, and a touch of blue for the violet. And I mixed a blue gray with phthalo and touch of black and a little bit of blue. But I'll explain as I go again how I make these colors. This is the violet now. This is alizarin crimson, white, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and a touch of blue. That makes your violet color. And the powder blue is just phthalo blue and white. And if you mix phthalo blue and white with a touch of um, the violet, depends upon how strong you want it. You can make it a deeper violet color. And you can make the gray blue, adding a little bit of violet to that, along with your phthalo and a little touch of black. That'll give you your gray blue. So in the meantime, I'm just putting a nice light coat of the powder blue, and I'm adding here and there some violet. Do a touch more crimson in some areas. That'll brighten that up a little bit. So I've got a pink patch of pink there, and that's with the violet with white. Very, very touch of phthalo, but it's mainly pink on that. So I'm touching that pink into the violet, just doing variations of light and dark, soft colors. I'm going to leave the center part clean. I don't want to put any paint there just yet. So I'm just going around the edges because the center part is going to be where the sun is. But in the meantime, I'm going to just keep going with the powder blue all the way down, adding a little white, maybe a touch of the violet down there. There's going to be some trees on the left, also on the right, but on the left there, I'm going to make that area along the side a little bit darker, because that's going to be like the tree color. Going into a little darker blue-gray, just a touch, because you've got your white down on your canvas, your liquid white, so that helps blend it too a little bit. It all mixes together. A little light blue-gray on the side, and the horizon line or the tree line is going to be fairly low in this picture here, in this canvas. So I'm just putting some shadow colors in. Right there where the snow is going to be, I'm going to still have it a little blue because once I put the white down, then it'll show up better. Adding a little more medium blue to gray on the bottom. Making the top corners just a little bit darker. That left side is mainly shadow color for the trees that I'm going to have in there. So I'm just doing it a little bit on that side. Now I'm got a little titanium white on my finger just to kind of mark where the sun's going to be. It's just above the halfway mark to the right a little bit. It's just a little off center. So I've got a little very light pink and very light yellow. I'm going to put around that area, around the sun. It's not going to be right dead center. So I'm going to leave that inside area there real white. A little bit darker on the sides, just a tad bit darker, not much. So there's going to be trees there, and those light reflections will come through, and I want to make sure they're vibrant enough to see through those trees. And with a clean, dry brush, I'm just going to brush inward, just soften everything up, soften those colors up, smooth it out. If you see a little area you want to add a little more yellow, you can make it your own and put it wherever you want. A little more on that side. The pink and yellow, I'm surprisingly, looks pretty good. Okay, back with my finger, I'm gonna shape that sun. Just gonna go around in a circle, shape it as big as you think it should be. You can do it a couple of times till you're happy with it. All right, I mixed up a real dark gray. That's black with a little white, and then I add a little bit of phthalo in one area, and I just touch my brush in that to make it for it's just kind of a blue gray, very very light, soft touches. Working my way into underneath that sun, very very light. Gonna let it be a lot of trees in there. Tapping a little bit lower. Just base color for behind the trees. Now I've got a clean little round brush. I think it's called a mop brush. And I'm just touching those trees a little bit to soften them up. I want them really, really light. Okay, so now I'm going to try and etch out where my water is going to be, my little river, in the lay of the land. So I've got some very light blue, gray blue, and I'm just shaping where the shoreline might be, angling across, and then at the bottom I'm going to have a clump of, it's going to be a down tree there in the bottom corner. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want the tree line is going to be. I think I end up lowering it a little bit more. And I'm leaving the center part, very center, right underneath the sun, open. I'm going to leave that open because that's going to be shoreline. And the other side in the bottom, it's just going to be where the water ends, little shoreline there. It almost looks like a triangle. But you can reshape that as you go. But I just want to get an idea where I want my water. I've got a little 1 inch. I'm brushing upward with some lavender. It's a little darker lavender. Just upward, make look like trees back there. Smoothing everything out, going into a blue-gray. I'm going to lower that a little bit, trying to figure out how much lower. But I want to keep this an open area there where the water is going to just go all the way back. So I'm making that a little bit darker. I'm going into my lavender and touch of gray, almost a double dipping there. A little bit of lavender, a little bit of blue-gray. And I'm going to start doing some background trees. Real light, just very light touches. But I'm shaping out the tops of these trees way in the distance. Just ever so light. Just tapping, shaping, figuring out where I want to put some more trees. I don't want to overdo the middle part because that's going to be real light in the end. It's going to have snow on top of those trees. I'm going to start shaping some more trees on the tops of those ones that I just put in, long ones. I'm just looking at a picture. I'm just visualizing the layers here, putting in some more background leaves where there will be more definition of trees as I go. Going to have some in the bottom there. Real light blue-gray. A little more lavender in there. You can just variations of color in there. This is all background color. Once I put the white snow on these trees, it'll all come together. So now I've got a fan brush and I dipped it in a little bit of white, titanium white. I'm just gonna flick upward and put some make-believe trees in there. Just hints of trees. Because they're really far in the distance. Okay, so I'm going into the darker blue-gray, touch of lavender in there, and I'm going to start making some treetops. They're going to almost go to the top of the canvas, but this is background color now, so don't let it scare you. Got to get brave sometimes. And just tap in, very light tap. The 1 inch works pretty good for this. So I want some dark color in there. Tapping in a little bit of lavender. And if I go over those dark areas, you can actually see. You can see the shapes coming in play there. Light lavender. Very soft touches. Some of them you can barely see, but you will be able to after we start putting the highlights on those treetops, and then they'll really show up. So this is just a background color. So I'm going to just continue to go and find those trees where I'm going to have some trees. 'Cause eventually I will put in the tree trunks and that, and they'll go right up to them. So I'll work on the other side a little bit. That side's going to be a little bit darker, shaping those tree boughs. So it's going to be a real pretty white pine tree in there. So snow on. So I want that snow to really show up. Just tapping. All right, so I'm going into a dark color now. It's the blue, brown, touch of black. And I'm going to start putting in some background, far in the distance, background trees. And I'm using my palette knife this time rather than a liner brush because I want some nice straight trees way in the distance. And I'll be making some trees a little taller so I can put them in place, and then I'll be able to take my script liner and thicken those up just a little bit. But on the left side of the thumb there, I'll have a couple that are fairly close, but not real overpowering. Now I'm taking my liner and I'm just kind of defining some of those trees better with the same dark brown color. Putting some on the right, putting some on the left, some a little taller. So I'm going to jump down and start etching in my water. I want to shape that where I want the water. Shoreline bank, whatever you want to call it there. Thinking where I want my shoreline. I did take a little fan brush. I put some brush back there in that same dark color. At the base of some of those trees. So I'm still etching in where I want that little river. So it's water runoff. I've got some really dark phthalo blue, straight phthalo blue with a touch of black. I want it really, really dark. Okay, there on the right bottom, I've got some lighter gray. That's black with a touch of white. I'm going to put in some background color for down tree there. Putting in some blue, light blue there, medium blue. Angling, keeping the lay of the land. I'm kind of slanting downward a little bit. Gonna meet up with the shoreline. A little bit of lavender on the other side corner. A little bit. When I put snow down, then it'll be nice shadows under there, under the snow. And I like to use my fingers sometimes to put some white on and just kind of glide it in like I'm going into the water a little bit. Just soft. I don't use that much paint then. It seems like the blues and lavenders underneath come through more. But I'm just shaping where I want the little snowbank. Okay, now I'm going into the medium blue, the darker gray blue. I'm gonna start putting in some um, leaves or whatever, just on the tops of those little trees a little bit. Little trees. Some dark areas in there. Okay, tapping in some dark blue-gray down at the base there of the tree line. Putting some more trees in the back. Now with white, you'll see how that all shows up really nice. I'm just going to start putting some snow in there. Just tapping some white down. And leave some of those shadow areas in. Doesn't have to be solid white, just tap them in. And I'm etching out where the bank is. I'm going to extend that water out more. But I haven't just yet. So I'm just tapping in some snow. I've got a little number 4 fan brush and putting snow way in the back. I'm leaving a tiny area where the water is gonna like disappear back there. It's like it's running off way into the distance, bringing out some banks, snow covered banks. Got a real small brush there. I'm just putting some snow, building it up, I guess. Building the snow up. Just shaping, tapping little snowy areas along the bank. Trying to keep that angle of the bank too, going more slanting upward. So I've got a dark color of medium brown. I'm just going to put like dirt. It's underneath those trees a little bit. That's Van Dyke brown. Touch of uh, blue. I'm going to make a really dark. I'm extending that water out and bringing that I want the bottom super dark. So I'll be putting a couple of stones in there. I'll add some stones with pale blue reflections kind of coming down into the water. Here I'm still working on the dark color. There, see, I extended that water a little bit. I'll smooth that out in a bit, but right now I'm going to put in another tree. I've got some dark brown and blue on my brush, very dark. I'm using a liner brush. And that's going to go right up among the lavender color. That's going to be a fairly tall tree there. But they don't go all the way to the top on that side. They will on the other side, but this side they don't. Put another small tree all right alongside of it. And I'll take a little burnt sienna and go along the outside of those trunks for just a little bit of light reflection. I'll put some arms on that too, some limbs, little limbs. So I'm going to put another tree on the other side. Now, I'm just doing some short little ones right now. Then I'll put a bigger one that's going to go up probably just a, it'll stop right above that sun. Not going to go all, that won't be all the way up. Just going to go right up just above the sun. Put some arms, some limbs on that one. Just etching some little limbs on there. Just ever so light. Now I did, for some of those limbs, if you want them to make them really, really soft and pointy, I use a little bit of odorless mineral spirits to thin it just a little bit when you're doing these really thin lines. That tree curves a little bit, kind of curves inward, and I'm going to make that one a little bit thicker. Right now, I'm just getting the shape right the way I want it. Gonna add some limbs on that one, and they're gonna come. Uh, they're gonna lean. It's gonna lean kind of over the sun a little bit. So I'm gonna take some of those small limbs, ever so fine, and just make some limbs that are like drooping, because I'll have snow on those. And have not a lot of limbs, but a few that are gonna be hanging down over that sunlight. Just reaching out. Yeah, isn't that pretty? It's just the limbs are just kind of leaning over a little bit. I thickened that up just a little. I'm going to make another tree. This one's going to be fairly straight up, and it will go all the way to the top. More limbs, more arms. Adding more limbs. I'm putting some more thin trees along the canvas there, because below that is going to be a pine tree. So you don't need to bring those trunks all the way down. So I'm just taking a little fan brush. I'm going to scratch in a few, oh, brush. It's with the darker brown, same color as the trees. Now with my little fan brush, I thin that white out with just a tiny bit of odorless paint thinner. And when I use the corner of my brush, it should just flow really nice. It just go right over the paint that you've already put down. That's the wet on wet technique. If it doesn't stick, well, then it's a little bit too thick. You need to thin it out a little bit. Making my pine tree. It's just kind of peeking out of the side of the canvas. So I'm going to start putting some white snow on some of those limbs, those arms, just here and there. I'm going to put a little snow on the inside of those trunks too. Just tap a little of that white on in there. And just tap in some pretty little snow on those limbs, those arms. I like to angle them down. They're hanging. You know, their snow is kind of heavy, so those arms are not made real sturdy, so they're gonna hang a little bit. So I just go in a downward motion and down in the front, bottom of those trees, I've got some more brush, and it's just gonna make some little gnarly little brush that's along the bank, leaving some of those dark colors in. Leave those exposed, leave them show, because that gives it depth. It's more realistic then. I'm going to tap in on the right, way in the back. I'm going to tap in a little tiny pine tree way in the back. Can you see it now? Got just the corner of my brush, starting at the top, kind of just zigzag a little bit, just touching ever so light, making little tiny evergreen trees. And you can take your palette knife and make little peaks. I made a third one. I'm going to continue on with arcing of my snow-covered limbs. That nice dark color will make the light show really, really, really well. What's that old saying? Without the dark, there is no light. You need to have some dark on your painting. That is the truth. It really makes things pop when you have shadow colors back there. Notice that pattern. Just, they're gnarly little um, snow-covered branches. I'm going to try and touch most of those dark areas, but I'm not going to cover them up totally. Isn't that pretty? But the little light touches do when you put that over the shadow colors. A little bit on the right there, a little bit there. You don't want to cover all of it up. Leave some of that exposed. I'm going to go over the sunlight area, and just the tops of those trees are going to have a little bit of sunlight hitting them. You'll be able to see the shapes of those tree tops. I know you can get carried away when you do these, but try not to. It's nice, just to have a few. The sun is really bright. All right. So the next is I'm gonna be working on is that down tree there with the gnarly branches that are gonna be sticking up. So I'm just taking some white on a little fan brush and just pushing in, scratching down, even using my finger. Some of those darker shadows, leave those in there because that gives it depth and more realization. Now I'm going in with a little liner brush. I'm going to start making some gnarly little branches and arms that are going to be sticking up there. Just squiggling. I did thin that out too a little bit so they go on. It flows off my brush nice and clean. Ends up with a nice point. Just kind of twirl it with my fingers. Here I am starting at the bottom and I'm just twirling upward, making those branches. You don't see them very well now, but now I've got some white and a little clean liner brush, and I'm going to go right over the top of those limbs so they'll really show up nice. I think I switched out my liner brush. Gotta have a really fine one because you don't want a lot of paint. You want some of those dark areas on the branch to show through. But once you put that white on, like over the water there, see how neat that looks? They just show up. Kind of a slow process. I'm kind of a slow one, but it is worth it in the end. I think it's looking really pretty. Put some grass seeds in there, little grass flicks here and there. I almost see a finished painting here. Oh wow, I really love doing this one, and I hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.